So what happens is the leadership style has to change. I call it from tell type to cell type. So tell type is the autocratic, what you said earlier, that okay, I'm telling you to do this. Cell type is that I'm telling you to do this, and also I give you a little bit of rationale behind it, why we are doing it. Once you do that, the involvement of the person increases manifold. And ideal is in case you can involve him in the decision-making process itself. Then the ownership of the decision comes into him, and his performance goes even more beautiful.
So, sir, my next question would be, sir, you have been in, in Indian Air Force for more than 4 decades. You've like seen the organization through different phases. Indian Air Force started on 8th October 1932 as an auxiliary force of the British Empire. First, we used to have that name, Royal Indian Air Force, and then the royal name was evidently dropped. So, sir, how do you see this evolution, let's say from 8 October 1932 till now, when we talk about, and 2 days from now, we'll be celebrating our 91st establishment day?
Yeah. So Gaurav, Air Force is almost 91st anniversary. They're celebrating 9 decades, out of which at least 6.5 decades I've seen. First 20 years as a son of a Air Force officer, and then 40 years in the service. I mean, 44 years if you include the training also. And last 4 to 5 years as a veteran, which I've been closely associated still with the Indian Air Force, and I still miss the Indian Air Force life. Yeah, so Indian Air Force has evolved. I mean, like flying also is not very old. Flying is also very young. The Indian Air Force is a very young service. Actually, it's the youngest out of the three services. And as the flying is evolving, so is the Indian Air Force. And Indian Air Force is very, very. I mean, not Indian Air Force. Air Force as such is a very technologically intensive service. You know, they say a human being can walk without technology, can even swim without technology, but you can't fly without technology. So it's a very, very technology intensive this thing. So as the technology is advancing, so is the Air Force. So Indian Air Force started with a very, very small element of Wapiti aircraft with very few aircraft pilots and very 16 odd Hawaii Sipahi airmen, which they were called. And from there, we have reached a stage where we are fourth largest Air Force. And capability wise, we have gone way ahead. I remember from the time I joined in those 40 years, I've seen 2 or 3 major transitions in the capability enhancement of the Indian Air Force. And from basic machines with limited capabilities, they have gone into a situation where we have very, very advanced capabilities beyond visual range, combat and weapons, network environment. Sitting in Bangalore, you can control an aircraft which is flying in Srinagar and look into the enemy territory 300, 400 kilometers inside. And in terms of, reach, we are going for these exercises to Australia, USA. Earlier, it used to take 6 to 7 halt. Now you're going in 1 or 2 halts itself with multiple air-to-air refueling. Then precision, standoff, mobility, airlift capability, ability to operate in all weather, and induction of combat support aircraft, good radars, good weapon systems, very, very smart weapons. I mean, you name it, which has come into the Indian Air Force. And Indian Air Force has really grown from strength to strength. As they say, touch the sky with glory, and also it said, sky is the limit. So Indian Air Force has really, really progressed well in these last 90 years, I must say.
Right, sir. Sir, one aspect to this, if you recently saw on news, I think on Wednesday, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, they handed over the twin-seater light combat aircraft Tejas to Indian Air Force. And you recently, I think you mentioned in one of your last conversations, you flew the Rafale jet also. Sir, when we manufacture at India, in the Atmanirbhar Bharat aspect comes into play, and when we are importing it from other nations, from France, so how crucial as an organization it becomes that we get that technology, get that know-how, the source code, the end-to-end design, and start doing things at our own place, so that tomorrow we have that strategic advantage. Because if you see, we have got Apache and we have got Chinook, but they have been well used before and then being handed over to our organization. So from that aspect, what would be your opinion on?
Yeah, Gaurav, you brought a very, very valid point. Firstly, a few days back, the news item which is said it was not Tejas handed over, it was a Tejas trainer which has been handed over.
Okay.
Tejas has been in the Indian Air Force for quite some time now. It's almost 7, 8 years when it was inducted, the first Tejas aircraft. And now the plan, you must have heard in the news, 100 more Air Force is buying besides the 83 contract which was put earlier. So Tejas is going to be the mainstay of the Indian Air Force. Actually, the whole project was initiated as a replacement for MiG-21s. The project got delayed initially, but now it is picking up pace. And I was also lucky to, before retirement, at least fly one sortie at least each in Tejas as well as in Rafale. And at times I feel that maybe I retired 4 5 years early because all the inductions, good inductions which are taking place in the Indian Air Force, T295 has come in, S400s have come in, Apache and Chinook you mentioned. I mean, a lot of inductions have come in now. Now these are all procured from abroad, and you're right. India has got the dubious distinction of being, the largest arms importer, which is not good. And in the Ukraine war, also the lesson has come out absolutely clearly that self-reliance is very, very important. And if you see any major power in the world, one thing where they have is a very, very good defense industry. I will not call it defense industry. They have a very good defense production ecosystem. R&D, the users, and the academia and the industry all are into one, and they form a good ecosystem. So self-reliance, Atmanirbharta or Make in India, these are not just slogans. They are very, very important, for various reasons. Firstly, cost factor. When you buy from outside, you ending up paying more money. They want to extract money out of, for their R&D and other productions. Okay. Second is, nobody gives you the latest technology. They always hold back the technology. So if you build your own and you can, you technologically, if you have got the know-how, you can induce the latest technology. Third is you're reliant on somebody, for spares, for sustenance, for everything. And in the past, we've had this experience where sanctions have been put on us. So during the wars or during when the requirement is there, any tap can close. So that's not a very healthy situation. Whereas if you are self-reliant, you have control over your defense industry. And if required, you can ramp up your production rates. So that is another advantage. The biggest advantage is also in terms of this your own developed aircraft. So you can integrate whatever you want on it, the new systems or the new weapons without bothering of taking permission from outside. And since it is your own development, inside out of it, the integration becomes that much easy. So there are a lot of advantages. Actually, it has become a necessity being a self-reliant rather than, being other option. So we need to, government has initiated a lot of steps and we need to work towards it to make our become totally self-reliant, not only in defense production and this thing, and holistically, we need to become self-reliant in a lot of things. Yeah, Gaurav.
Right, sir. Sir, when we talk about this, for example, when we talk about technology, getting advancement in technology is an important aspect for us to be, strategically ahead. The other aspect is our fighting force. So when we talk about the scheme, like we have this Agniveer, purely from a strategic point of view, because the duration is 4 years, it will be a role in the other generation is coming. From that aspect, how do you see it will strengthen the Indian Air Force, or how will it be advantageous?
Yeah, that's a very, very live topic, Gaurav, but you brought out before that, the role of technology, of course. Technology is important. And, there is an organization called WDCMA that is, which tracks capabilities of various air forces, and it takes into account a whole lot of factors, 15 to 20 odd factors to determine, gives you weightage and determines how good you are at war fighting and what is your strength. So in that, we are still ahead of China in certain respect, but the China is moving ahead very fast numerically as well as qualitatively because he's competing with USA. So we need to step up on it. But the biggest why I brought out this is to tell you, like, to correlate technology and your second part of your question. Where we are ahead of them is, in terms of factors like morale, training, tactics, strategy, doctrine, employment of combat assets, experience of combat. So these are the factors where leadership, these are the factors where we are slightly ahead because of our services, authors in the services. It's very, very important. Now, Agniveer is a scheme which a lot of heat has been generated. A lot of veterans felt that it is not a good scheme, and when it was being considered, a lot of criticism came in, and the fears were related to three aspects. One is the organizational effect. What will be the effect on the organization, that is the defense services, in their preparedness? Second was our individual aspirations. People are volunteering to join because there's a job security and a whole lot of things, whereas here you only for 4 years. And third was societal effect. That means in the society, when these chaps go, they are trained in arms and ammunition. If they go into the wrong hands, you're asking for trouble. So under these three verticals, a lot of apprehensions were there. But that is past now. A lot of people have written in. I have written on my blog about this. Now that the scheme has been implemented, now is the time to think how to make it successful. So I have written on that also, how to, under three verticals, what all actions to be done to make it successful. The bottom line is that this scheme has been implemented, but it should be evolutionary in process. That means you should periodically review the performance of these people, how it is performing, what is happening, what is the effect on the society, what is the effect on individuals, what is the effect on the organization, and carry out midterm corrections, appropriate changes so that they do not suffer and the scheme works and works well. So that is the thing. Now, even women are being taken in through this Agniveer project. So even women are coming in as, earlier they were coming in as officers. Now they're coming in the ranks also and through Agniveer. So we have to make it reviewed periodically and make it succeed. Yeah.
Right. But sir, as they say, there are two sides of a coin always. And one of the criticism that you also mentioned that has, come up was earlier when let's say a young guy is looking to join defense forces, the aspiration is that you have that government job for the rest of your life. That is one aspiration, because at the back of their mind, they don't have, any confusion. Now the question is, yes, there is an aspect that because you will be trained in the Air Force or the defense forces for 4 years, you become more, you can say, eligible to get a job because you are well trained. But then the other aspect is that 75%, then they'll have to, rework on themselves to get them job again. So there is a feel of government job, but it wouldn't be there for a very long time since the scheme only lasts for the 4 years.
Yeah. So there's advantages and disadvantages. One advantage is that people will work hard towards getting into that 25%.
Right.
Second aspect is, in case the person gets an inkling that he can't make it in 25, he'll start thinking of some other avenues and he'll not concentrate on his job. Second aspect is, a lot of people have said that, okay, they will take in these Agniveers who are already being trained for skills and all, and we will give them certain in private as well as in public sector. So that is also there. So they will at least get a job assurance. Plus, their interests have been looked after to a certain extent. They get a lump sum of money, they get skilled, and they get opportunity for job somewhere else. So those advantages are also there. But that's what I'm trying to say is that we need to say that at the moment they are all being said that this will happen. But we need to review it and we need to make it work. That these chaps do not suffer individually, the organization doesn't suffer, and the society doesn't have an adverse effect, and they're absorbed somewhere or the other. And let me tell you one or two things. Now that these trainings are already, some of them are completing and coming into the units, the reports which are getting is, the dropout rates are slightly on the higher side as earlier, because when they come in, they realize that it's a different sort of environment. And secondly, when they come in, if they get a better offer outside, they go back outside. So that is why I think the dropping rates are better. But what reports I'm getting is that the performance is nowhere lacking. And people are still joining in with this scheme, and their performance during the training is at par with the earlier people, or even better at times. So at the moment, what report is that there is no drop in the performance levels as such. But once they start going, which they have started going to the units now, we'll have to see how the performance and how the things pan out there.
Right, sir. We really hope this turns out well for the organization as well as for the nation. All right. Sir, you mentioned about leadership. Sir, you have held various leadership positions during your tenure. So, sir, normally the perception is when you talk about defense forces, army, air forces, navy, if your superior gives you an order, there is no questioning back. You just have to implement it. But this is a general perception that we normally have. But has it evolved over the years? Or are we, following that strict leadership style that has always been the part of defense forces?
Yeah, the good question, Gaurav. There are 2-3 aspects. You said you held quite a few leadership positions. Okay, so let me comment on that. Leadership is everyone is a leader. I've done a lot of research on leadership also, even after post-retirement. And the best definition I got is from one of the US presidents from he says, if your actions and your behavior and your whatever your demeanor, if it encourages somebody, even few people, to do better, to do well, to study more, to perform better, and to achieve more, then you're a leader. That's the best definition I got. Now, coming to leadership position, you said, the position doesn't make you a leader automatically. It gives you a chance to be a leader. What you do in that position and how do you run that position and how do you deal with the individuals is what makes you a good or bad leader. So automatically you don't become a leader just by holding that position. That is one part of it. In the services, you're right. There are 2 types of leadership. One is called autocratic, where the saab ka hukum hai, and it has to be the same. And in defense services, especially in army, that autocratic leadership has to be, the style has to be maintained because of the nature of work. And second thing is called democratic leader or inclusive leadership, where you have a little bit of democratic process. So ideal leadership in services is called situational leadership. That means at times you are tilting towards autocratic and at times you are tilting towards democratic. Now you talked about evolution. Very good observation. Leadership also has to evolve. Now what is happening, Gaurav, is your generation and the generations which are coming in are very, very aware. The information is at fingertips. The kind of information we used to have as students is negligible as compared to, I keep going to a lot of colleges and schools for motivational talks. And the kind of awareness which I've seen in the students, not only in colleges, even schools, is amazing. So the people who are coming in are very, very aware. So what happens is the leadership style has to change. I call it from tell type to cell type. So tell type is the autocratic, what you said earlier, that, okay, I'm telling you to do this. Cell type is that I'm telling you to do this, and also I give you a little bit of rationale behind it, why we are doing it. Once you do that, the involvement of the person increases manifold. And ideal is in case you can involve him in the decision-making process itself. Then the ownership of the decision comes into him, and his performance goes even more multifold. So tell type to cell type has to be exercised much more in the coming years because of the changes in the society and the awareness level of the subordinates. So that is what leadership evolution is taking place.
So I think this is, in fact, a very good management lesson. I think the way you have put it, tell type and cell type, I think it makes up for a different, I would say, conversation. All right. So moving on, another aspect of leadership, since we talked so much about it, your take or your opinion on the appointment of Chief of Defense Staff, and how do you see this role? Like, what advantage as an organization, as defense forces, we are going to have?
Yeah, Gaurav, leadership, we can have a separate talk for 1 hour or maybe. Actually, all the questions which you asked are a separate topic for a full-fledged 1 hour maybe discussion on it. Yeah, you talked about CDS now. That is part of the higher defense organization of the defense services. And it's once again, as the things change, you have to evolve. So there is a thing called jointness, and also various terms use jointness, integration, fusion. To my mind, these are not semantics. They've got a certain connotation. Being joint, next degree is being integrated, and fusion is the ultimate. Like China calls it civil military fusion. So I think that is the third level and it's ultimate. So we have been talking about joint band integration loosely between the three services. Okay, and so as a result, headquarter IDS was formed. Not now. It was formed in November 2001, almost 22 years now. Okay, and earlier the senior most chief used to preside over it, and it was called Chairman, COSC, Chief of Staff Committee. Uh, so now CDS was formed about 4 years back in December 19, and the first occupant, you remember, General Rawat, and now is Anil Chauhan. So office and along with the CDS, Department of Military Affairs is formed. So this is part of the evolution of the higher defense organization of the services. And to my mind, CDS and DMA, whatever has been formed, there are pluses and minuses, of course, and it's an evolutionary process. But it is an essential step, and it is doing well as far as bringing in jointness and integration is concerned, bringing all the three services together. Actually, if you see the modern warfare, no service alone can go and win the war. Okay, it's a myth. So you have to have a joint approach, integrated approach, okay, and they have to be fused with each other. And not only that, now it is becoming a whole of government approach. Wars are no longer restricted to Army, Navy, and Air Force or the armed forces. It is, relevant to every citizen of the country. The nations go to war, not the armies. And the new kind of warfare which is coming up, and especially China has mastered the art, is called gray zone, which affects each one and every one. And not only during war, even non-war periods also, cyber attacks, attack on your space installation, all those things can go on. So these require a whole of government approach. So not only integration between the three services, you need integration between civil and the military as well. And China has done very well in the reorganization. There are a lot of lessons which we can learn. One is called civil military MCF, military civil fusion, and also the reorganization which they've done for their services also is quite advanced. Even the Americans who have had an advanced organized air defense organization are studying the Chinese model and thinking of revamping their STO. So it's an important thing and it's a good thing, and we have to evolve, and we are in the process of this. And you must have heard about theaterization. A lot of work is going on,
Yes, sir.
and a lot of debate going on. So that is another topic in itself. How do we increase jointness and integration? So, to my mind, it's a good step, the formation of CTS, and it brings in a lot of synergy between the services. Yeah, Gaurav.
Right. Right, sir. As you mentioned, theater command is a topic for another day. And when we talk about warfare also, there is a general saying or perception that with so much of advancement in technology, the fourth world war would be a cyber war. There's a saying like that. And you must have heard with the coming of technologies like Chat GPT, the artificial intelligence has become very, you can say, smart nowadays. And sir, when we talk about warfare, one country which we cannot miss talking about is Pakistan. Sir, when we talk about Pakistan, if you see,
Yeah,
the
why not?
economy is in shambles. Their leadership, they are literally picking up people and making them leaders, from Imran Khan to Nawaz Sharif. So when a country is suffering so much, they are going through, so much of destabilization, but still the priority of the army remains to engage with India at different war fronts. How, as an organization, how as defense forces, and how as an individual do you see these?
Yeah, Gaurav, you're right. We shouldn't be talking about Pakistan. Pakistan is basically irritant. Okay, it's in shambles totally. It has got no capability to, at the moment, indulge in any war with us. And it's burnt its fingers so many times. That is why it's following the policy of thousand cuts and using subversive methods and terrorists and all sort of things to lead India. So anyway, Pakistan is irritant. Actually, we should be talking more about China and the collusive threat between Pakistan and China, which becomes a challenge for us. Okay, anyway, you asked me about Pakistan. So Pakistan economy, you said, is in shambles. I call it credit card economy. He's got various credit cards, credit from USA, credit from Islamic countries, credit from multilateral organizations. And when he has to pay back one, he takes the credit from the other. So while they're doing credit card economy and they're in shambles politically as well as, and the politicians are basically puppets. The whole country is basically run by the army. Army is all strong. They say all the nations have an army. In case of Pakistan, army has a nation. It's the other way around. The army is all strong and pervasive. Now, for the army to remain relevant, what do? They can't fight USA or Russia or European Union or any other China. So next best is, India. So India bashing. So anti-India sentiments are created and kept, to keep the army relevant. And if you see, so shamelessly they do it, like the country is in shambles. The Pakistani rupee inflation is very high. There is not food to eat for people. But the money which is there, even from the dole which they get from outside, the share which goes to the army is still very large. I mean, it's quite shameless, and people are seeing through it. If you notice the last protest which took place in Pakistan, even the army institutions, the corps headquarters and the corps commander's house were ransacked by the public. So people are seeing through it now and calling the bluff. Uh, and they're fed up with the country going downslide and while army flourishing, and that is what is happening in the Pakistan. So we should not be too worried about Pakistan, but the problem is China and the relationship between Pakistan and China. That's what we need to concentrate.
So since you mentioned about China, you see China as a bigger threat, right? So can you talk that aspect here?
Yeah, so China, basically, our relations with China were good actually. Both are very, very ancient civilizations. And the downslide started after 1959. That is the year I was born. Not because of me, because of Tibet annexation by China and Dalai Lama coming to India and we giving him asylum. That's how the downslide started. And for quite a few years, China's attitude was calm and not very belligerent. But as their economy grew, they became, the factory of the world. The economy did well when the aspiration started rising, and now they're doing very well. I mean, they're competing for world number one part in the world, and with the USA. And the timeline is 2047, which they're saying. And militarily also, obviously, in case you want to become a world power, then militarily you have to have a expeditionary capability, and they've done a lot of reforms. They've gone in a very, very scientific way. We got a lot of lessons to learn. And the future of warfare will be dictated by how Chinese are going to fight. They have mastered the art of gray zone operations, anything and everything as a weapon. And in the domains of cyber, space, information, electronic, and they've made a separate service called JSSF, Joint Strategic Support Force, which is a separate service dealing with all these four domains and offensive as well as defensive capability in these four domains. So China is really marching ahead, and keeping anti-India sentiments is also in their favor. I call it pressure cooker theory.
Yes,
And whenever they feel like, they put on the pressure and maintain the pressure in such a way that major war doesn't break out. Of course, miscalculations like Galwan can happen. And if you see in the last 6-7 years, every 2 years there has been a major skirmish. Starting with Chumar, Doklam, Galwan. So China is a big irritant, and to deal with China, we need to enhance our capability of the three services. We need to create infrastructure. We need to spend money on defense forces. We need to infuse technology. We need to become self-reliant. So all those actions we need to do. The government in the last 4 or 5 years, especially after Galwan, has really stepped up, and a lot of action is being done to deal with all these situations and improve on all these fronts. But I'll say that in this case, we have maybe gone into third and fourth gear, and we need to go into fourth, fifth gear. So to deal with the Chinese challenge. Yeah.
right, sir. Sir, I would not, specifically go into, let's say, the political aspect of it. But when I say, do you think we have a leadership when we talk about the government, which now gives us the more aggressive approach as an organization, as defense forces? For example, when the Uri attack happened, when the surgical strike happened, we took that approach. We went to the enemy zone and we, almost completed the operation. Do you think it has, some aspect related to how the government also thinks?
Yeah, I'll not go I don't go into politics as such. But you gave example of Uri attack. Actually, later than that was Balakot. Balakot was my farewell gift from the Airforce. I coordinated as a vice chief the whole Balakot episode. And February it happened, and then April I retired. So after 40 years, so it was a farewell gift from the Air Force. Yeah, so I give credit to the government for taking the decision to use air. So what happens, Gaurav, is outside everywhere else in the West also, air action keeps taking place where you are dropping weapons standoff and from far away. But moment if you put boots on ground, it is considered invasive. In our case, it was the other way around. Army could keep taking actions across the border, but moment Air Force was brought in, it was felt that full-fledged war will break out and it will be escalatory. So that myth was broken, and I give credit to the government to take a decision. But there's a factor to it. One is, for a long time we had a coalition governments where the decision making did get affected because of the big coalition. And now that we have a government which has got a full mandate, the decision making becomes a little bit more this. Plus, the geopolitical situations are changing throughout, and we have to show our intent sooner or later, in the sense that that patience is run out. The message through Balak is very clear. Our patience is run out. If you continue doing this, we will not only come into POK, but we will come deep into Pakistan and take corrective action if required. That is what the Balakot message was. So what I'm trying to say is, the armed forces' basic job is deterrence, to deter war, and that deterrence is by showing strength. So the strength is shown by, it depends on your adversaries, what is their capabilities. So the deterrence value is determined by that, and what is your capacity and capabilities. Another important factor is the will to use that capability and capacity. So that is what is being completed. That means it has been demonstrated that we have the will to use that capability and capacity in case required.
Yeah. Sir, I'd say, I know obviously you cannot go into details, but sir, if you could talk a little more, which can come in public domain, about the Balakot strikes, like how you marshaled the operation.
Yeah, I've given a full interview on that. It's on my blog also, and subsequently every anniversary, a little bit of 5 to 10 minutes of program is always there in there. It's on the blog. If you want, you can go through it. But it was a well coordinated operation, and as I said, the government took a bold decision, and it was decided the Air Force will give. We took a very, very considered decision as far as target is concerned, to send a clear-cut message that it is a Jaish-e-Mohammed camp, and it was not on the border. It was deep inside, which had almost 300 plus terrorists, trained terrorists. So our message was that we will come inside and do it if required, and our fight is against the terrorists, not the common people of Pakistan. It is against the terrorists. It is against the perpetrators of terrorism. It is against the people who support terrorism, and so that this thing, and the mission was accomplished very well. The complete surprise was still achieved in spite of knowing that some action is going to take place. That was done by very few people need to know basis knowing it. And secondly, every activity was carried on as normal. The Aero India took place, the firepower demonstration took place, the new war memorial was inaugurated, the flypast took place. So much so that in the same night, then the farewell was given to the CNC, and party was organized, farewell party, and next day morning this action was taken at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So it was very well coordinated, and it did solve its purpose, and the message went clear and very loud and clear to the perpetrators of terrorism.
Sir, I'll say just one line here, that Air Force indeed touches the sky with glory, I would say. All right. Sir, so moving on to the last question of this section. Sir, when you started your journey with Indian Air Force as a gentleman cadet, as a young boy, you spent more than 4 decades flying more than 4,000 hours of flying through the different aircrafts. How do you see your journey, today at this point, from being a young boy to finishing as, the 42nd Vice Chief of the Air Staff? How has the journey been?
Yeah, first of all, I feel that I've been very, very lucky on 2 counts. One is that I made the full journey, and I went through the thing, reaching it wherever I reached, and God has been kind. And a lot of people drop out because of medical issues, because of other issues, but I was fortunate enough. And secondly, the kind of appointments and kind of diverse experiences which I had, which service gave me by this appointment, was really very, very broad-based and very enlightening. So on these 2 counts, I feel very happy and thankful to the God and the service. And as far as the journey is concerned, it had its ups and downs. It has its bad days and bad periods and hard times. as well as good times, and no regrets whatsoever. And I will say that the journey has been very, very fulfilling, very satisfying, and very, very happy. To the extent I say that if I get a chance to live again, and if I have a choice, will try. I'll like to become a fighter pilot once again, and not in any other Air Force, but the Indian Air Force.
Yes.
Yeah, Gaurav.
And sir, I would say I would consider this day to be one of my biggest days to, having had the privilege to speaking with you. So now with this, we have come to the end of second section also. So we'll move on to the third one. We'll do this one quickly because that is on the lighter side. So coming to our last part, I would say the lighter side of the conversation. Sir, talking about what would be your philosophy in your life?
That's a not a lighter side. Yeah, that's a tricky question. Yeah, actually, I don't have a philosophy. I have a set of rules which I have abided by and which I have followed in my life and which yielded result as far as I'm concerned. So these are firstly, there is no shortcut to hard work. Anything you do, you have to slog, you have to work hard towards it. So it's a work, work, work. It's no shortcut to it. Second is, I've always believed in that, if there is a change required, you be the change, you initiate it. And third thing is, I've always followed that whenever you feel that you've done enough for what you're doing, take 2 steps more. That will yield you results. And that is what separates from average work to maybe above average or exceptional. So if you have to sum up these two things which I said, it is an initiative and involvement. You have to take the initiative and you have to be fully involved. That is what makes good leaders. That separates the leader from the people who are being led. And I always maintain that, maintain a balance in life. I always followed, work hard, play harder principle of life. So balance has to be maintained. Then one or two things which I followed was, one is that, always keep your head on the shoulder and feet on the ground. What it means is, don't let anything get into your head. These are all temporary phases of life. Everything changes. So be, humble, be, practical. Don't let anything get into your head. Okay. And last one is, be a good human being and then anything else. Whether it's not that you become a very good professional, but you have to be first a good human being and then a professional. And of course, honesty and fairness, transparency in your dealings is very, very important. So these are the set of principles which I have followed over the years.
Right. So do you have any role model that you follow or you aspire to become like?
Yeah. So actually, my way of looking at life is slightly different. I don't have any one particular role model. I'm not influenced by one. I've been influenced by quite a few. And my philosophy in life is learn from everyone, everything, every situation. So on Teachers' Day, actually, I thank not only my teachers, I thank everyone whom I've worked with or whom I've come across with, because I've learned from everyone. The difference is, from some, you learn good things which you should emulate and you should, do. And from some, you learn not so good things, and which teaches you that, okay, you should not do these things to be a good human being or a good leader or a good professional. My max influence, I think, has been from my parents, from my father, the ability to work hard and with total dedication and involvement. I mean, he was totally involved with his work. At times, I think he didn't even know which class I'm in. Maybe he was so involved in his work. And from my mother, I picked up, things like resilience, tolerance, and overcoming failure. I mean, she used to keep saying, doesn't matter if you fail, doesn't make a difference. Try again. You're too young. Doesn't make a difference. So that's what she used to keep telling me. So I think my parents have had the maximum influence as far as my way of working and way of looking at life is concerned.
Right, sir.
Yeah,
So when you are not working, whether giving a talk or any other work you're involved in, how do you choose to relax, take time off? Do you watch movies or do you have any favorite cricketer?
yeah, I've got too many hobbies. That's the problem. I do watch TV off and on, but not seriously. I'm into problem solving. So I do a lot of Sudokus and puzzle solving. And I'm a national level Sudoku. I've been in the national years as well. Sudoku is concerned competitions, and puzzles nationals have been 4 years. So that is my one hobby, which takes a lot of time. I do 3 to 4 hours of puzzle solving every day. And then, of course, sports-wise, I play billiards and snooker and golf, which are both time-consuming. And the rest of the time, I do my blogging and writing and speaking and things like that.
So Sudoku, you started like after you retired or during your when you were in Air Force?
No, I started serious. Actually, later on, I realized that I was always interested in problem solving, right from school days. But I didn't realize it that is a matter. The I got into it in 2007, and then competitive solving I got into it in 2009, and thereafter I've been doing competitive puzzle and Sudoku solving.
Right.
The last 12 years I've been going for nationals.
So that's an amazing feat, I would say. I think that is where your quick thinking and that mathematical aspect comes into play, which you have, interest towards. Sir, one message you would like to give to a young guy or a girl who are looking to join defense forces?
Yeah. Just a word about puzzle solving since you got me interested. Puzzle solving helps you in dealing with day-to-day situations also. They say basic principle of the puzzle solving is keep simplifying the puzzle so much that the answer stares you in your face. And of course, service life, and especially flying, I talked about emergency situation handling. That is applicable in day-to-day life also. Every situation you face, you have some immediate actions, you have some subsequent actions, and you have some long-term remedial actions. And if you use your common sense, you will deal with them very well. Okay, as far as message to youth is concerned, it is not one message, it is maybe a set of 4 or 5 things. One is know yourself. When you say know yourself, that means know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know your likes, and know your dislikes. All of us have these, but all of us are not aware of it and or become aware of it quite late in life. So think about it and know yourself. Once you know yourself, that means you have known your strengths and likes, you know your weaknesses and dislikes. Follow your dream. Okay, and what I say is do what you love and love what you do. That is the motto you should follow. All right. Next one is pursue happiness. That is the most important thing in life. Whatever you do, you may earn a lot of money, you may slog, you may get very high position, but if you are not happy in it, it's pointless. Maintain balance. That is very, very important. As I said, work hard, play harder.
Yes, sir.
Everything should be in moderation. The balance should be maintained in life. Okay. And other is, most important thing at the moment which is required in the world and country is tolerance. That is what services teach us. Tolerance to others, beliefs, ideas, faiths, religion, everything. And we are going not doing too well in tolerance. We are killing each other, fighting over parking spots and road rage and whatnot, which is not good. So we need to be tolerant. That is very, very important. Okay, and last, in case you want to join service, you have to have a passion. जिसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं जुनून, वो होना चाहिए. If you have that, then go ahead and join it. Last and most important is failures are part of life. You will fail. Okay, idea is to not give up, get up, learn from them, and try again. That is the most important part of the. Yeah.
Right, sir. I think, sir, a lot of people will take a lot of learning from this. And because you touched on the failure aspect also, because we know how to have, sometimes we are prepared for only for success. If I get through this, I'll, be in defense forces or I'll be in this job. What if even after trying so hard, things don't work out? What is your plan B or how do you back up and, then start doing things in life? I think that is also one of the most critical aspects. So, sir, last question of this conversation, I'll say, sir, tomorrow, let's say if a movie is to be made on your life, what title would you give it?
Are you into movie making?
No, sir. So somebody will
Okay.
definitely come and approach you for this, I can say.
No, I don't think so. There are enough retired veterans whose life has been very, very colorful and very worth movie making. Okay. No, yes, it's a hypothetical question you asked me. Firstly, I won't like a commercial movie being made on me. Okay, I've seen enough commercial movies. I won't take the names here because I don't want to get into that. Commercial movies, what happens is they over dramatize the thing,
Yes.
and at times, at the cost of giving bad publicity to the service, which to my mind is not a good thing. So I wouldn't like a commercial movie being made, and I'm open to a documentary sort of movie being made, which brings out inspirational aspects, which inspires people, and also which has lessons in it and draws lessons from practical situations which I faced throughout my life. So I'm open to that. And
Right.
if I have to give a name to it, if it is a Hindi movie, I will name it Udaan Bhare Sapne. And if it is an English movie, then I'll call it Fly Free, Fly High. So that is what I would
Sir,
do.
one thing I must say, you're prepared for almost everything. If a movie is to be made or anything happens tomorrow. Sir, so thank you so much. I would say with this, I conclude this conversation. And personally, for me, it was like, I would say, a crash course of Indian Air Force because I got to learn a lot from you, not only in terms of about the Indian Air Force, about life in general, how as an officer from a cadet you have lived your life. So I think whoever sees this, it will also be quite enlightening for them also. So once again, I would say thank you so much, sir, for giving your time. And it was a pleasure, interacting with you.
Thank you, Gaurav, and thanks a lot for this interactive session. And even if a few people get inspired by it, I think it'll be time well spent rather than saying that okay, I've spent so much of time. So thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Right.